No one forgets the moment they are told they do not belong, especially when the person saying it is your CEO. My name is Ella Rowan. And when the call came for me to report to the executive conference room, I already sensed something was off. The hallway felt wrong, too quiet. The kind of quiet that tells you a decision has already been made without you. When I pushed open the door, the entire board of Northlake Analytics was seated, their eyes shifting away the moment they saw me. Bradley Knox, the CEO, did not bother to stand. "Ella," he said, tapping a pen against the table. "This will be quick." I kept my hands clasped in front of me. "All right." He leaned back, exhaling sharply through his nose as if my presence irritated him. "You do not belong here. Leave your badge and laptop, and exit the building immediately." The words hit harder than the tone. It was final, cold, clean, like he had practiced it. A few board members shifted uncomfortably, but no one intervened. No one ever did. For years, I had spoken up in meetings only to be talked over, dismissed, corrected by people who barely understood half the systems I designed. Now the man who benefited the most from my work was pushing me out like clutter on his desk. I did not argue. I did not beg. Silence was the only dignity I had left in that room. I reached into my bag, prepared to hand over my badge, when the conference door burst open. The company's lead attorney, Marcus Hale, stumbled inside, white as paper, gripping a folder as if it were the last stable thing in his world. "Sir," he choked out, trying to steady his breath. "You need to see this immediately." Bradley frowned. "Marcus, we are in the middle of something. It cannot wait." Marcus pushed the folder forward. Someone just bought more than half of the company's shares. The air went still. Conversations died before they began. Bradley's face drained of confidence as he snatched the documents from Marcus's shaking hands. I said nothing. I simply stepped back, letting the moment unravel. The story you are about to hear is a fictional work created by the writing team at Herrevenge. Each narrative carries its own message, crafted to stand apart from every story that came before it. Names, events, and dialogues are original creations designed to offer a fresh exploration of justice, resilience, and the quiet strength of women who refuse to be erased. Bradley finally looked up from the papers, panic rising in his voice. Who would do something like this if any of them had looked closely? They would have noticed that I was no longer reaching for my badge. I was watching the realization settle over them, knowing none of this happened by accident. And soon, they would know it too. Before the firing, before the takeover, I lived a version of myself no one cared to notice. 1 year earlier, I was still in my small apartment in Fremont, the one with thin walls and a rent that crept up every 12 months. My mother, newly widowed, stayed with me most weekends. She always asked, "Are they treating you well at work?" Ella and I always answered, "I am fine," because the truth felt too heavy to hand her. Most nights I sat alone with my laptop, finishing data models long after my shift ended. When I brought those models into meetings, Bradley barely glanced at them. "This is unnecessary complexity," he said once, sliding the folder back to me without opening it. "Stick to what you are assigned. It could save the company hundreds of thousands in unnecessary spending," I replied quietly. He waved a hand. "We are not changing processes because you think you found a shortcut." That was how every conversation went, my work shrinking under his voice. One afternoon, while updating a forecasting tool, I noticed something that did not fit. A sequence of losses tucked inside a category that should not contain losses at all. I double-checked the data, then again, and again. The numbers were not mistakes. They were hidden. I approached my colleague, Jonah, as casually as I could. "Have you noticed anything strange in the internal projections?" He stiffened. "Strange how certain losses are being moved between departments, reassigned, masked." He lowered his voice. "Do not dig into it, Ella. Just do not." That warning stayed with me longer than the data itself. I began saving every spare dollar. I met quietly with former coworkers who trusted me more than they trusted the company. A few small-time investors listened when I said, "Northlake is not as stable as it looks." None of them laughed. Something inside me shifted during that time, something steady, something sharp. I did not know it then, but that shift was the beginning of everything that came next. Some revolutions do not start with anger. They start with quiet math on a kitchen table, most nights. After finishing my work at Northlake, I opened my own laptop and built the beginnings of an analytics consulting startup. Nothing glamorous, just lines of code, client drafts, and projection sheets illuminated by the dim kitchen light. It felt small, almost fragile, but it was mine. I met my first potential investor, Daniel Hart, at a small cafe near South Lake Union. He glanced over my proposal, tapping one finger against the packet. "You have talent," he said, "but you are untested. I cannot put money into something that could snap in half by next month." I kept my voice steady. The data models I designed at Northlake have saved them more than $300,000 annually. He pushed back his chair. "Then stay there. It is safer." And just like that, he walked out. The rejection hit harder than I expected. For a moment, I wondered if Bradley had been right to dismiss me. But that night, my mother sat across from me, knitting like she always did when she sensed I was hiding something. "When you were little," she said softly, "you solved puzzles no one else could. You would not sleep until every piece found its place. Do not let anyone convince you that you stopped being that girl." Her words steadied me. 2 weeks later, I approached another investor, Michael Tran, a former engineer with a sharp eye for patterns. I showed him what Daniel had refused to look at: the hidden loss models, the irregularities tucked inside Northlake's financial structure. Michael leaned forward. "Ella, this is not incompetence. Someone is burying these numbers." "I know," I said. "And I know exactly how their system works." He signed on as my partner that night. From then on, the company that dismissed my warnings became the system I understood better than its own chief executive. Corporate takeovers rarely begin with a shout. They begin when a single shareholder whispers, "I am thinking of selling." I heard that whisper from a retiring engineer named Paul Whitmore. He stopped me in the hallway one afternoon, lowering his voice. "I am leaving at the end of the quarter," he said, "selling my shares privately. Thought you might want to know." I tried to keep my expression calm. "How many shares are we talking about?" "Not many," he said, "but there are others doing the same. People who have lost faith in Knox." My pulse edged higher. "Why tell me?" Paul sighed. "Because you listened when nobody else did. That night, I created a limited liability company, Rowan Insights, and began purchasing small blocks of shares. Nothing dramatic, nothing loud. A few hundred here, a few hundred there, quiet enough to pass beneath the radar of anyone who assumed I was irrelevant. Over the next several weeks, Northlake's stock took a noticeable dip. Bradley blamed the market, but everyone inside the company knew the truth. His decisions were cracking the foundation. Lower prices meant I could accumulate faster, and I did. Michael called me one evening after reviewing a new acquisition. "You are moving quickly, Ella." "I have to," I said. "If Bradley keeps mismanaging the budget, the board is going to panic." "Some already are," Michael replied. 2 directors reached out to me for modeling advice. They are preparing for something, preparing for what he paused. A split. They want him gone. The room felt suddenly smaller as the implications settled around me. For the first time, I could see the shape of the opportunity forming not from ambition, but from the vacuum Bradley had created. The shares no one was watching became the leverage no one expected me to hold. Every takeover has a night where everything teeters, where success and collapse share the same breath. Michael called just after dusk. "The largest block is officially on the table," he said. "If we get it, you will have controlling leverage. But we are not the only ones looking." My chest tightened. Who else? A competing tech firm out of Bellevue. They are already in conversation with the seller. I grabbed my laptop, logging into the secure portal we used for private transfers. The documents were ready, but the clock was not on our side. "We can still move first," I said. "If we act now." Michael hesitated. "Ella, this block is enormous. If anything goes wrong, I know what it costs," I said. "Sign with me." Before he could respond, the seller's representative joined the call. "We have 2 interested parties," she said calmly. "We will move forward with the one who commits with full guarantee within the hour." "An hour, that was all," Michael whispered. "This is too fast. We cannot verify their last audit. We do not need it." I cut in. "We have the models. We know exactly what these shares are worth." The representative asked, "Do you have the personal backing to finalize this tonight?" Michael froze. I felt it through the line, the fear of a step that might break us. So I answered for both of us. "Yes, I will sign the personal liability guarantee." "Ella," Michael said sharply, "that is nearly all your savings, I am aware." The representative typed something. "Very well, upload your signature." My hand trembled only once before I steadied it and signed. 10 minutes before the deadline, the confirmation arrived. The competing firm had withdrawn, and the shares were ours. Michael exhaled like he had been holding his breath for hours. You just changed everything. Bradley Knox finally sensed trouble, but long after the trouble had learned his every weakness. I overheard his voice before I even reached the office kitchen. Someone is accumulating shares. He snapped into his phone. Find out who. Now. Jonah, pouring coffee beside me, whispered. He has been like that all morning. Closed-door meetings. Panic everywhere. I kept my face neutral. Did he say why rumor is a rival CEO is circling? Jonah lowered his voice even more. Bradley thinks someone is preparing a takeover. Bradley's voice rose again through the wall. Schedule an emergency board session. If someone thinks they can sneak up on us, they are mistaken. But someone already had. I continued buying through Rowan Insights and 2 smaller intermediaries Michael coordinated. The transactions were small and scattered, exactly the kind no one bothered to trace to a single source. Late that afternoon, Bradley stormed past my desk, shouting into another call. Dump 20,000 shares and drive the price down. Let us see if the buyer still wants to play. Michael called me immediately. They just pushed the stock down by almost 5% in 1 hour. Good, I said. That means we can buy more before the board realizes what he is doing. Ella, this pace is unsustainable. He will notice eventually. They never notice the people they choose not to see. We moved quickly, absorbing every share Bradley inadvertently discounted. By evening, our position had grown stronger than either of us expected. At the end of the day, Bradley held a brief meeting with the directors. I passed by the conference room just long enough to hear him say, "We will corner this buyer and force them out." He had no idea he was giving me the leverage I needed, and by the time he discovered the truth, it would already be too late. The moment the truth surfaced, even the walls of the boardroom seemed to hold their breath. Marcus, the company attorney, stood in front of the table, gripping a stack of documents like they were burning through his hands. The buyer now holds more than half of Northlake Analytics, he said. This is a controlling position. Bradley shot to his feet. Who authorized any of this? Block it. File an injunction. I want this reversed. Marcus swallowed hard. We cannot block it. The buyer passed every compliance checkpoint. Bradley rounded on him, then redo the checks. There has to be a mistake. There is no mistake, Director Avery said, sliding a folder across the table. The compliance team verified the purchase through 3 separate audit firms. Everything is clean. Bradley's voice cracked. Tell me who it is. Avery nodded toward Marcus. Marcus opened the folder slowly. The acquiring entity is Rowan Insights. The room fell silent. Bradley blinked, confused. Rowan. What is that? I stepped back into the boardroom doorway. It is my company. Bradley's head snapped toward me. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. As if his mind refused to arrange the pieces in front of him. He finally managed. You did this. Avery cleared her throat. Rowan Insights now holds controlling interest. The board has convened a vote, effective immediately. Bradley looked around the table, desperate for support. You cannot do this. I built this company. You misled shareholders, Avery replied. You concealed losses. You destabilized the stock. Northlake needs leadership grounded in integrity. A unanimous show of hands rose around the table. Bradley's chair creaked as he sank back into it. You planned this, he whispered at me. I stepped forward just enough for him to see the steadiness in my eyes. I planned a future for this company when you stopped doing the same. The security officer entered quietly, waiting beside the door. Bradley lowered his gaze for the first time since I had known him, and the man who once told me I did not belong now had no power left to decide who did. Some victories roar, others speak softly yet hit harder than any raised voice. After the vote, the board asked me to stay. Director Avery folded her hands. Ella, with majority control. It would make sense for you to take the chief executive position. Bradley's empty chair sat at the end of the table like a warning. I shook my head. I am not here to replace him. I am here to rebuild what he broke. Avery studied me for a long moment. Then tell us what you need. Before I could answer, Marcus re-entered with a new stack of reports. His expression said everything. The auditors finished reviewing the internal files. He announced, there are unrecorded losses, unauthorized reallocations, and personal expenses disguised as departmental costs. Avery exhaled. How bad? More than $200,000 in concealed transactions. Marcus replied. Likely more once we finish the deeper analysis. Bradley, who had been escorted to the hallway but not yet removed from the floor, stepped back into the doorway. You are exaggerating, he said quietly. This is political. Marcus handed him a folder. These records carry your digital signature. Bradley's shoulders sagged. The fight drained out of him all at once. The board moved quickly. Avery addressed him with a firm steadiness I had never heard before. Effective immediately, you are barred from returning to Northlake Analytics. Legal action for financial restitution will follow. State regulators will be notified. You will not hold an executive role in any Seattle-based firm for the foreseeable future. Bradley's eyes flicked to me, not angry, not defiant, just hollow. You did this, he said. I met his gaze. No. Your choices did. Security escorted him away. The door closed softly behind him. And for the first time since this all began, the room felt capable of something better. Ella did not seize a throne. She dismantled the entire system that allowed men like Bradley Knox to build one. The morning after his removal, the board gathered again. Avery turned to me. Where do we begin? I sat forward, with transparency. From this point on, every department will share quarterly breakdowns with audit access. No closed books, no hidden reallocations. Jonah, seated near the back, lifted his hand. And the people who kept this place running but never had a voice? I nodded. They rise. Over the next several days, I reviewed personnel records, not the polished versions Bradley kept, but the real performance data. People who had been ignored, people whose work had been credited elsewhere, people who reminded me of myself. I brought them into meetings for the first time, handing them responsibilities they had earned years ago. Me lead analyst, one woman asked, stunned. I thought Bradley did not even know my name. He did not, I said. But I do. By the end of the week, the atmosphere inside Northlake began to shift. Meetings grew sharper, more honest. Teams collaborated instead of competing for Bradley's approval. For the first time since I joined the company, the place felt functional, alive. Even that weekend, I visited my mother. She opened the door before I even knocked. You look different, she said. Different good, different strong. She touched my cheek lightly. You changed more than a company. Ella, you changed the story you tell about yourself. I sank into her small kitchen chair, the same place where my startup had begun as quiet math on a worn table. Now the numbers were bigger, the stakes higher, but the purpose felt the same. Northlake thrived under its new structure, not because I controlled it, but because I rewrote the rules that controlled everyone else, and I knew I was not finished. In the end, the truest victories are not loud. They are the moments when you reclaim the doorway someone slammed in your face. I walked through the executive floor the next morning, not as an employee, but as the majority owner of Northlake Analytics. The carpet felt the same beneath my shoes, yet every step landed differently, steadier, firmer, mine. At Bradley's old office, his nameplate still sat crooked on the door, like a remnant of a world that no longer existed. I removed it gently and brought it to Human Resources. The director looked up, startled. Is this final? She asked. Yes, I said, handing it over. Close that chapter properly. Back in the boardroom, I placed a single sheet of paper on the table. This is the new leadership charter, I told the directors. Every employee, every voice will matter. Dignity first. Transparency always. No one gets silenced for telling the truth again. Jonah read it, his expression softening. This is what the company should have been. It is what it will be, I replied. Later, I stood at the tall window overlooking Seattle, the same window where Bradley once told me I did not belong. The city stretched endlessly, filled with people who had been underestimated just like I had. I touched the glass lightly. I belong wherever I choose to build, I whispered. Before leaving for the day, I met with Michael in a small conference room. He slid a packet toward me. The founder agreed. The acquisition papers are ready. I opened them. A young startup, brilliant minds. Underfunded, overlooked, was now ours to support, not a trophy, but a promise of what Northlake could become. This is the beginning, I said. Michael nodded. So where do we go from here? I closed the folder. Forward. Always forward. In that quiet room, I understood something that had taken me years to learn. Power is not proving someone wrong, it is building something better than the world they tried to keep you out of.